All right, welcome back to another Dr. J Radio Live. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. J, broadcasting from the City of Angels. Or is it? How about City of Dead? City of Zombies? It's Happy Halloween for everybody. If you are in America, of course, celebrating it. Now, we have not just a guest perfect for the holiday, we have a guest who is perfect for any day. And she founded two paranormal phenomena. I'm going to let her speak upon all of this, and we are going to take your questions. And so let me just introduce her, the one and only Miss Heidi Hollis. Heidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right. I just lost a little of that, but I caught the rest of it, which so I know you're still here. So let me start by asking, what are the two paranormal phenomena that you identified?
Well, just making my parents proud talking about demons and the devil.
Yeah, yeah, and hey, this is perfect for Halloween too. Demons and the devil. Okay.
Yeah, so shadow people and the Hatman phenomena. I named and defined both of those with no one out there talking about this stuff. And I had no idea that others were experiencing it and wrote my first book, put it out, wrote it in 97, copywrote it in 2000, and finally spoke about it in 2001. So, yeah, it's
So you've
been
been on
a
this
crazy
for
ride.
almost 20 years, literally. In
Yeah.
2001, when you said when you wrote about it.
Well, it was published in 2001, but I wrote it in 97,
So
and it
20
was,
years, 22 years, actually,
yeah.
from the time of
It,
writing it, which is not the time you've been investigating it.
Right. Oh, it's been beyond 97. But yeah, so I had circulated this topic among some of the top paranormal researchers out there in hopes of getting my book published in 97. And I wasn't landing it. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And so it took me 2 months to write that book while I was a college student and 4 years to
Where
get
did you
it published.
go, if you don't mind me asking?
What's that?
Where did you go?
Oh, where did I go? What
For
school?
college, yeah, just out of
Oh,
curiosity.
Mount Mary. It was called Mount Mary College. It's Mount Mary University now. But I'm an occupational therapist. A
Gotcha.
lot of people don't know what that is, but it's like physical therapy and speech therapy rolled into one. But yeah, so it's cognitive, physical, psychological, getting people back together again. So it's like yeah. So I do a lot of different things. It's kind of fun.
Helping
I like it.
people is the basic of all of it right there. And
It's
that's what you're
everything. Yeah.
doing with this right now, too. And your own show, for that matter, right? You host a show.
I do. It's called The Outlander Show, and I've been doing that for, goodness, probably like 8, 9 years now. But I've hosted other shows or co-hosted on other shows, and just out of necessity, to be honest, I was really painfully shy. Um, Even in college, I was just like, I didn't do presentations in college. I would just make sure I got straight A's and everything else, so I wouldn't have to do a presentation. And here I
Yeah.
have, I have now spoken across the country, and I'm hosting all these shows. And I swear, before every presentation I do now in front of audiences, I'm like, I say a prayer, like, okay, you promised me to give me the words, now I'm holding you to it. I'm like, looking at the heavens. So it's been quite the ride, but it's all about passion of helping people and making sure that they have the right tools to be able to combat and beat this negative, evil crap that's out there.
Now, I'm going to take this in inverse because we could talk about shadow people, which is probably the majority of people that are tuning in, is one of the titles of this, aside from your name. But Hatman is the bigger question. I'm reading here, who is Hatman?
I
So let's
broke up
start
there
with
for a
that.
second.
Let's go
You said
backwards.
who
Hatman.
is Hatman?
Yeah, they want to know who Hatman is. Who is he?
Oh my gosh. He is, okay, first I'll start from scratch. He
Yeah.
is a man looking type of shadow entity, but he's not quite a shadow entity. When I first introduced him to the world,
Hmm.
I coined him to be Hatman Shadow. I thought it was another form that shadow people took. It didn't take long for me to realize I was dealing with something connected, yes, to shadow people, but ultimately something more powerful and more solid than just a shadowy mass that could take on different forms. So he looks like a man who dresses in a three-piece suit. He can wear a cape or a trench coat, and he'll wear various types of hats as well. So he'll
So
wear
are
something
you
that
saying a kind of a hat with a three-piece suit, maybe circa 19th century, change of 1900s even, around that time?
it could be, but he changes it up. So he'll wear a bowler hat. He'll wear a cowboy hat. He'll
Interesting.
wear a gaucho. Yeah, sometimes he doesn't wear a hat. So and a top hat is his second favorite. It's what I get a lot of. But yeah, so it's really quite the phenomena to have this man. Now shadow people, they'll change form. They'll look like something different. Hatman, he likes to be recognized and feared for.
How many people would you say you've talked to about Hatman that have seen him?
Oh gosh, like personally, oh man,
Hundreds, a
it's
thousand?
it's been hundreds. I mean, I have had thousands of emails from around the world, however, but and I respond as to pretty much all of them. I mean, I really have, and yeah, and I just do my best. And I tell people it's like I'm not an all-seeing Oz or anything like that. I don't have all the answers, but darn it, if anybody's got close to it, I think I am, because people try to categorize me like, oh, so you're one of the shadow people or Hatman experts. I'm like, no. I started this thing, and it wasn't easy, because here I was, this college chick, hitting these UFO and paranormal and sci-fi and Comic-Con conventions and just waiting for open mic time, because they wouldn't give me any time. They wouldn't give me the time of day. They would just pat me off as being, oh, isn't that from a science fiction movie what you're talking about? And, oh, this is not falling into the guidelines of what's considered an alien phenomena or paranormal phenomena. I got so much downplay, only now for people to forget where it came from. Like, it was me hitting the dirt and saying, oh, my God, you guys, look what's coming. Look what's coming. Little did I know it had already come. And so it was really a shocker when I first got on some of these major radio shows and started talking about this. And it gets slammed with these emails saying, me too, me too. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Confirmation. There it is, confirmation.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the body and the face. I've heard of faceless figures. I've heard, of course, of shadow people. I've heard of all sort of ETs. What are we talking about here? What's under the hat?
What's under the hat?
Yeah.
Well, he can be clean shaven. He can have a goatee. He can have a mustache. He changes it up. But
the irony is, we actually just hit tech issues the moment you started describing him. Literally.
I believe it.
I'm not kidding.
I believe it. Yeah.
People are actually even saying there's a ghost over the broadcast. And what else did I read here? Interference with Heidi on air.
What's it saying, this interference? Because I have a problem with that. And it just happened on my show, in fact, really, really loud.
Well, I'm wondering if you yourself have ever been abducted before by ETs. Because that usually is what's a driving force in wanting to seek out more.
You know what? I'll tell you this. It's like I have been categorized as a lot of things over the years. And people telling me, oh, you're an alien abductee. You have cocoa-colored children flying around on ships and things like that. I've had the most
20
interesting
children
thing.
Or something, yeah.
Yes. I mean, people who are psychic and telling me, and I'm like, I feel this way. It's like, yeah, I've seen aliens. Yeah, I've had some confrontations. Yes, I picked up a gray and kind of choked it.
Oh
Actually, it was a
wow,
hybrid.
really?
Yes, I did.
I
And
probably would say I'd fear, literally. That's the first thing
yeah.
I would do. I'd squeeze that neck till, make that head pop until the fear
Oh my
made
God.
me drop down, literally.
Well,
I'd
it's
be like,
quite the
"What the hell are
story.
you doing near me? Where did
Uh,
you come from?"
oh
Yeah,
man,
they'd
it's
scare
it's
the
quite the
crap out of
story.
me.
Well, I was running on adrenaline. It's a whole long story, but I'll have to tell you that one too. But it's I mean, for myself, it's like if I was abducted, I hope to sometime maybe recall these things, and I feel like when it's meant for me, then that's when I'll go and cross that. But for to just say outright, do I remember being abducted? No. Have beings tried? Oh yes, they have. Might they have been accessible? That's a possibility, but I just don't know how to categorize that because the two memories I have of beings, I walked away from it. Well, I kind of ran away from it one time as a kid with my
Look,
sister.
okay, so which one was
Hmm.
the one where you choked the gray? The one where
That
you
one,
ran away with your sister?
no, no, no. This was that one. I was living alone.
Okay.
Do you want? I could tell you more detail about that if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
The more the
It's
better.
like sometimes when I talk about it on radio shows, it gets so hung up on this alien encounter that I don't get into the shadow stuff
Oh
as
no,
much
no, we
because
will. We absolutely
it's
will.
because it's such a it is an extraordinary event and yeah, so it's wild. So this was a really like I would never have anticipated something like this to happen. So I had just joined a UFO alien abduction group.
Hmm.
And these people had all been abducted. I had only seen very, very solid UFOs, very
Crafts.
huge
So you've
UFOs.
seen
So I joined
crafts
this.
in the sky.
I did, and I
What
was
were they?
not an
Discs?
abductee.
Traditional discs?
No, I'd seen a huge, what they call plasma-like ship that took up the entire downtown sky of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It was that's all you could see when you looked up. It was just humongous. And what was the other one I'd seen at that time? Oh, I'd seen a ship that lit up a parking lot in response to a question I asked it.
Wow.
So yeah. So I'd seen some pretty interesting craft by that time. So I joined this group, and soon after, probably a couple of weeks, I had a black helicopter outside my place, and I was like, well,
Oh
holy crap, what's
God! So
going on here?
that
Yeah,
was confirmation because I'm assuming the black helicopter was there because of what they had already seen with the giant plasma or the parking light or the park that was lit.
oh, yeah, I don't
How
know.
long did it take for the uh, copter to come?
Oh, that was about 2 weeks after I joined the group, and it hung around my place for quite a long time. It looked like it was going to land on the house. It was crazy, just
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. So,
I've seen
um,
video, I've seen pictures, and these things fly literally close to their homes and
yeah. Oh,
unmarked,
yeah.
black, and it's like, what the hell are you being invaded on?
Right. Right. Exactly. And it's like they're leaning out, taking photos. I mean, it was really crazy stuff. So I joined this group. These odd things that happened, and I'd seen the UFOs, and I moved into an apartment soon after that was on the first floor. And my dad's like, "Oh, a young lady should not live by herself on a first floor apartment. That's not cool." I said, "Haha, Dad, I got a place with bars on the windows, so I'm safe." Fancy bars. And I'm like, I'm living there by myself. Really cool. I love this apartment. And I woke up one night to very loud noise, like someone broke in my apartment. And I woke up startled, like, oh no, my dad was right. My
Burglar or
God,
something
here
is
I
what
am.
you were thinking?
Yes, I'm like, oh my God, somebody's in here. My bedroom door is wide open, and I hear this noise not far outside of my door. And I'm like, and if I put my feet down off the bed, I felt like whoever had broke in is going to see me. And my phone's not near me, nothing. And I'm just like, okay, Heidi, you're going to put your feet down on this ground and you are going to run for your life and run for the front door and just get out of there. And so I put my feet down and I start running through the living room, and I just like stopped, like, what on earth? There were two, looked like children, standing at my bookshelf with their backs to me, going through my bookshelf.
Whoa,
and I'm like,
you're kidding me.
Yeah, no. So I go and I stand between the two of them, and I'm like, whoa. I said, and I thought I was about to die. I thought somebody had just broke in. So I'm like talking really fast. I'm like out of breath. I'm like, who are you? What are you doing here? And these two little stinker things turned their heads towards me, and I saw clearly that they were gray alien beings with big black eyes, with, how they have the two slits for nostrils, a slit for the mouth, and their mouths were in the shape of
right?
like an O, like, oh crap, she's up type of thing. Yeah, no ears. I didn't see any ears. And they had my stuff in their hands. And I'm saying this really fast. I'm like, who are you? What are you doing here? Who are you? What are you doing here? And they just have this O for their mouths, like, oh crap, and I'm like, and they didn't move. They just froze. So I took my stuff out of their hands. I'm like, put this down. What are you doing here? And I hear noise behind me. I had a big walk-in closet.
Books?
They were holding books, and one of them held, I had a photo album, a little small photo album. Yeah. And so the one behind myself is my walk-in closet. I heard noise coming from there. I'd go in there. I might have flipped the light on. I'm not sure. And I saw two more grays going through my stuff like it was a police raid. I mean, they are flipping, they're digging. And I'm like, and I'm repeating this to all of them. Who are you? What are you doing here? And I'm like, who are you? What's going on here? It wasn't really registering with me like, oh my God, these are aliens, run for your life. I'm like, these are little tiny, the size of 4-year-olds. I think I could beat them up. I'm like, I think I could take them on. Now, they might have been a little bit bigger than 4-year-olds, but I'm like, and then I heard loud noise coming from my kitchen. I run in there. There's two more in there. One's going through my cabinets up top. One's going through them down low. And right off of the kitchen to the right is my bathroom. And the bathroom door is closed and the light's on. And now to my left is the exit to get out the apartment. And I don't know why it just didn't dawn on me, just leave, Heidi, just go. I was just like, again, I didn't feel, and all these things, when I asked them, who are you, what are you doing here? They all would turn towards me and open their mouths into a circle, like, oh, like,
yeah.
Yeah,
so
like,
was
oh,
there
crap,
telepathic communication when that was happening?
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming. So I go to the bathroom door and I fling it open. I didn't realize there was a gray behind the door, so when I flung the door open, it knocked one of them to the floor.
So you're talking about 5 in your apartment. 2 in the closet, 4, 6, 2 on the bookshelf.
2 in the living room.
Right?
2 in the living room, 2 in the walk-in,
okay.
2 in the kitchen. So I'm up to 6. So I flung the bathroom door open. That one got knocked down, so that's 7. And then there's an 8th one that is reaching for something off the back of my toilet.
Wow.
And this one had clothes on. I don't recall the others wearing anything. And I'm asking all of them, who are you? What are you doing here, right? And this one that's reaching for something off the back of my toilet, I grabbed it by its little, like, jumpsuit, like, suspender strappy-like part. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed it by that, and I picked it off the floor.
You took the clothes off of the being?
No, I picked it up by the clothes.
You literally grabbed the whatever it's made of.
I'm not a violent woman, but I don't know. I grabbed this thing, and I said with every word, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Because none of them are talking, right? And I hear this one that's laying on the ground. I hear in my head, I'm your nephew. And I turn my attention from the one I have in my hands, and I look to the one that got knocked to the floor. And he's laying on his back, and he's got his hands up like, don't step on me, kind of blocking me. And he's saying this, I'm your nephew, I'm your nephew. When I looked at him, I watched this thing shapeshift before my eyes into my nephew in a baby blue suit and an afro.
Wow.
And I said, you're not my nephew. You look like him when he was 10. He was like almost my age. He was like 20 or something at the time. I was like, and then I turned my attention back to the one in my hands. And this one was shaking so badly. It was like a short-circuiting robot, like just vibrating, like horrified and scary. Now, this thing, this is so weird. While I'm looking at this thing, it's really close to my face. As I have it, I am pulled it up to my face, demanding it answer me, right? And that's when I realized this thing did not look like the others. It had the almond-shaped eyes. They were blue, though, like a human. And it had flesh-toned skin. It had some freckles on its nose. And it had curly red tufts of hair on top of its head. And when I got a good look at it, and I saw it was horrified and scared, just so scared, shaking, I felt like I had just terrorized a poor kid. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. And I put it back down. I said, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just trying to get some answers. And none of you guys are answering me. And, this one over here is lying to me on the floor. I said, just calm down. It's going to be okay. And now, Dr. J, you're going to think this is nuts, but I said, it's okay. Do you want a cookie? I'll go get you a cookie.
You offered him cookies.
I did. And now,
that's what a good aunt would do, right?
I did. I felt bad. It felt like I scared a kid. This one had emotions. Like, it was so scared. It was so scared. So I turned around to go get it a cookie. And that's when I saw all the others that were in the apartment, including an extra one, I'm thinking. So it was like 9 in my apartment. And they were standing in a V formation at the door. And I was like, oh, great. I said, now what do you guys want? And it was as if they all counted to 3. It's like 1, 2, 3. And they all leaned forward. And it was like a Vulcan mind meld. Boop. I was out. I don't remember what happened.
Ooh,
I woke up the next day. Yeah, I'm like, was it an abduction? I don't know. But maybe one day I'll find out. But it's like, I can't say I'm an abductee. I don't recall that part. I remember rattling and shaking them. But, the interesting part, Dr. J, that one that shapeshifted into my nephew, mm-hmm. That was an exact replica of a picture in that little picture album that the first one had that I took out of its hand.
Oh, wow. So it actually took the picture, and that's what it made as a disguise.
Yeah. So it was like they were trying to learn about me. And now the interesting part, it was like the next day, shadow people entered my apartment.
Wow. Okay. So
like,
let's talk about this experience. So after mm-hmm. you're knocked unconscious, you wake up the next day, and then mm-hmm. how do the shadow people start to come in?
Well, I started seeing very distinctive head and shoulder looking shadow things roaming my place, and I'm like, what?
Adult human size?
Oh, no. Big, almost to the ceiling.
Jeez.
Just huge. Yeah.
So
monsters, maybe 70.
Literally.
Yes. And then I was seeing it scurrying. And now I had seen a shadow being follow a friend maybe a year or two earlier than this. And that's when I first seen such a thing. I didn't know what I was dealing with. And my friend was like, oh, that thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's been following me since I was a kid. I'm like, are you kidding me? I saw this thing following us in broad daylight, and I was staying at her family's home. I had to grab something from my room and turn around to leave, and it blocked my way out the door. I mean, it was just so in my face, like, no. Like, I'd seen it, and it was quite angry, and I knew it wanted to kill me. So that was my first time I'd seen that, and I thought, oh, this thing was looking at my friend. I saw it. I ticked it off. I didn't connect that soon after that I started having these shadow spider experiences. They were nightmares. I'm waking up to seeing man-sized, like, shadow spiders or millions of them all over me.
Oh, jeez.
And I didn't connect it. I just didn't. So I was still having those kind of, like, intermittent, like, nightmares of these things when I saw those 9 aliens, and then I had the shadow beings coming at me, and I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, I just couldn't understand. I had no idea what I was up against, and they weren't letting go very easily. And, so it got interesting really quick after that.
So, and how long did this continue for? And does it still happen now?
Oh gosh, I'm okay now. I mean, I learned how to keep them at bay, but they don't like me very much, so they like to threaten me and go after friends and family and
is it
coworkers.
True that they feed off of fear?
Oh yeah. That was something I put out early on about how these things work and how they are attracted to negativity and they create the negativity. So which came first, the chicken or the egg, you know?
Yes.
And it's like only you know, really. It's like, were you angry when you came over here? You know, was it whispering in your ear? Do you have nightmares of these things? So yeah, there's a lot that goes into trying to figure out what it is that caused these things to appear in your life. And there is a distinctive connection between them and aliens. And that was the part that I think confused people in the beginning when I was like, look, these things are connected to aliens. And it's like, oh, skirt, you know, I'm a ghost hunter. I don't believe in aliens. And, oh, I'm an alien hunter and I don't believe in ghosts. Oh, okay, people.
You know, I was totally shocked when there was 2 different camps. And now I realize you can't talk about one and not acknowledge the other.
Yes. And I've been talking about this for a long time, and I got poo-pooed beyond poo-pooing. And and it's like, oh, well, she laughs too much. Oh, she's too relaxed. Oh, she's too young for... You know what? Stop trying to categorize people on how we talk about this stuff. Because when we're fighting against each other, we're already fighting the mass population of people who think that most of us are nuts anyways, especially back in the day. And it's like to stick with it for all the years that I have and to try to keep pushing, you know, it's like, look, I deal with it my way, you deal with it your way. But I think that when we take this flashlight out from underneath our chin and stop trying to be spooky about it and dress all in black and talk real, you know, and just be our freaking selves, you know, I think we turn a corner and we get people more curious and more interested and less fearful. And want to join this understanding, and, you know, and supporting each other. This is not about ego. I'm in this to try to save souls because these things are killing and possessing people quite literally. So, you know, let people carry on the way that they want to and trying to express themselves in this. I don't think people realize that with every laughter and with every slap of trolling and whatever it is that they do to put people down, you cause a friend, family, coworker, or neighbor to want to retreat further and further into their hole of being assaulted by these things because they're like, they're reaching out to somebody like me on the opposite side of the planet because they can't roll over in bed to their wife and say, oh my God, I just fought for my life last night. No. I mean, that breaks my heart. This has got to change, this attitude, this ego, this hate. I don't understand it. I don't understand why there's not more cohesiveness, more working together, more support, more light, more, you know, being ourselves and talking about these topics. I'm a cartoonist. That's all I ever wanted to do. I like humor. I like comics. I love this stuff.
To make people laugh.
Yes, I like keeping laughter in my life, and it's not a nervous laugh. It's me. This is how I like to live. If you don't like it, don't listen, okay? Because this is just how I am. And I don't want to just to please somebody sitting on their couch trolling somebody. You know, come on
That's
now.
right.
This is not what it's about. I mean, realize it. Just realize it.
It really
There.
is. And, I can't imagine. I talked to Stanton Friedman, bless his heart, now that he's passed, about the
Yeah.
early days when he started getting into this. I believe it was the 60s, maybe 70s, but they really thought he was nuts. And there were a few others from that era. I don't remember the
Yeah.
names. One of the guys was a former Marine. He made a few press conferences. The name eludes me right now, but he had these famously large ears. And he was
Mhm.
talking about this like 1954. And people, they did a real job of ostracizing people who talked about
Oh.
paranormal
Yeah.
in any way.
Yeah. Oh, they still do it. People still go on the attack. I honestly, I haven't had a ton of that. I really haven't. But I know a lot of people who haven't, and they're like, oh, what? I was on Coast to Coast recently,
Hmm.
and a guy calls up on the show, and it's probably honestly my first one on. I've been on Coast to Coast a lot. That said, oh, she laughs, and I don't know if I take her serious. Sounds like she's just trying to sell her books. And like, first off, you can't make a living doing this, people. I'm a therapist. Make a great living doing that. And if I put more time to being a therapist, I'd be even better off. But this is called a passion project. And my books have been free for years on Amazon Prime. So go get it. It's like,
Yeah.
it's free.
Yeah.
It's like,
They're there to help, as you were
it's
talking
there
about
to
earlier.
Yes, my God. So people like to talk before they look. And it's like, you don't understand passion. I get it. But there's a lot of us with this paranormal passion that we just can't not help. And, I think that if people realize this is really the ultimate goal, yeah, we're curious too. We love looking into mysteries, but we also, more than anything, love to help people. My career is in a helping field because I love to help people. So, yeah, shoot me for that. But hey, it is what it is. I don't know many people that go to work for free, but you can bet most of us in these fields do for free. Most of us.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's definitely not a moneymaker. Yeah. You don't
No,
go
I
into this to
did
become
8
a
radio shows
millionaire
a
or
week.
billionaire. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Sorry, folks.
Right. Yeah, I did 8 radio shows a week for free, just to help. It's like this is.
It's kind of like when I
Yeah.
was working with Art Bell. I had to produce my own show and
Mhm.
get him guests as well. So I had to get 9 guests a week. And
Oh, that's hard.
yeah, and they had to be 2 weeks apart. And of course, he got preference. So if I wanted Linda Moulton Howe, it would go to him first, and I'd have to wait 14 calendar days to make
Yeah.
sure it was long enough before she spoke on my show. So yeah, I know what you're saying where it was
Yeah.
hard and it's like, well, where's the pay? Well, you don't really get
Yeah.
it, but I get the
Nope.
answers to my questions, which I've had for over 3 decades.
Yeah. Right. Right. It's important. I mean, and I just wish we gotta, if we're in this field and if people are listening to these shows and they enjoy finding answers along with us, at least be nice to each other about it so we can figure this out together and get further along. We already got the mass population ostracizing enough. Might as well be a little bit more, have some more camaraderie, But yeah, so I mean, I've been really fortunate in that department. But I think I met the first troll when the internet was invented.
Yeah, right.
I had a website before most people did, and I was like, hold on, who's this anonymous idiot here? It's like delete. I learned that one quick, really, really quick. So, so I've been really fortunate. Like it doesn't faze me as much as I feel bad for my colleagues who are in this field, and it hurts them because
I take it personally.
They do so much on their own, and we're usually one person warriors, and so I hope that people realize and appreciate that we're working out there for you, really, and ourselves, of course, to learn But yeah, it's really I wouldn't change it for the world, to be honest. No regrets.
Now, you wrote a book, The Secret War, the true story about alien wars or aliens and shadow people. So let's
Yeah.
talk about how you found out about the war and the distinctions. Which types of ETs? Were they the grays that you saw?
Oh boy, that was my first book while I was in college. That's the one that broke the mold and put out shadow people to the world. Wrote in '97, but yeah. So you heard the beginning. You heard about I have the grays in my apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and
9.
then yes, the 9 grays in my apartment, and I think George Norris the one that first said, "I think you're the only person I ever heard that picked up a gray and choked it." I
Yeah,
said, "Well,
yeah,
I."
you are definitely the first I've heard, and I've interviewed probably
Oh,
over 800 times about that.
whoa.
So, oh yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh, wow. Well, I thought that there were others that assaulted them at least, wasn't it? I mean, Fire in the Sky guy, he hit one, but I
I
didn't
know
mean to like
Travis
injure it.
tried to. He
Mhm.
tried to pick up something and try to find a way to bash them, but
Yeah. Yeah.
he never said he was successful.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I don't think I heard it. I always feel bad
Yeah.
talking about it because I'm not violent. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So
Well,
so I got
honestly, we don't know how we're going to react when something like that happens to us.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
honestly,
mean,
I think I probably would do the same out of fear.
yeah. Yeah, I was
I might
yes.
not offer them a cookie afterwards, but I'm going to apologize.
That does sound a bit ridiculous. I know, but I did. I offered it a cookie. Maybe one day I'll get the right hypnosis therapist to help me out with it. I don't know. I don't know. But so I soon after that experience, I got a roommate. And I moved across the hall in the same building.
Mhm.
So I got a bigger apartment, and
Now,
this
what
roommate
city
of
are
mine.
you in at
Okay,
this time?
I'm sorry.
What city are you in at this time?
That was Milwaukee,
Okay.
Wisconsin. And so I get this college roommate, and I thought this is going to be fun because I'm a cartoonist and she's a cartoonist, and it's rare to find 2 women who love to draw cartoons. So I'm like, this is really awesome. So I get this roommate, and the thing is, though, she was Pentecostal and
Hmm.
highly religious. And I told her, I warned her, I said, look, I have some weird stuff that go on, and I just want to be honest about it. And she still moved in. She's like, look, I have God on my side. You know, your demons are not going to mess with me. I'm like, demons? I'm like, wow, I never got any of this as demons. But long story short, she moves in, and she was just like most of my friends who, how can I say, they wouldn't talk about these weird topics with me unless they were making fun of me or it. So it wasn't
Hmm.
like I had anybody really to talk to about this stuff, except for those who were in this UFO alien support group, right? So I was like, okay, you know, whatever. So, but I had these people, these friends from this meeting, come over my place every once in a while, and she would just, you know, like they were the plague. Like, oh my God, devil worshippers. Like, she was so awful. so so now imagine this. One day I get a call from her. First to back it up, she would see stuff in the apartment.
Oh,
Now
wow.
I would, yeah.
Okay.
So she would see stuff right alongside me, and I'd be sketching out what I see, and she draw what she sees. But she drew 4 times better than me. I mean, she won like awards from Disney. She's really good. So a lot of the artwork that you'll see is from her. Um, so that I've got on my website, HeidiHollis.com, and out there and stuff. But so yeah, so she would sit there and she'd see these things right alongside me and acknowledge it, but she's like, I think they're all demons, you know. But she was drawing what looked like alien faces poking their heads through the walls. Now me, I was getting barely, like I could see an edge and like maybe something kind of shadowed out, but I couldn't get the details of it. But she could see details. And she was like, what am I looking at? What is this? And I'm like, wow, you see this stuff better than I do. So one day I get this panicked phone call from her. She had just drove to her college, which was in broad daylight, which was downtown Milwaukee, and she's just in tears, it sounds like to me, and almost in a panic. She's like, Heidi, an alien jumped on the hood of my car. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, I don't know. He's in my classroom. He's shocking me. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't understand. What is this? Here's somebody that doesn't even talk about this stuff. She's talking about an alien jumping on the hood of her car. And I'm like, well, do you want me to come pick you up? Are you okay? She's like, yeah. It feels good what he's doing, but I don't know what he is. And I'm like, oh my God, what? I'm confused. So, and this is all in the Secret War books. But so flash forward later that day, I meet up with her. We're sitting in my car down at the lakefront, Lake Michigan, and I'm like, so what happened? And she starts talking about how this like gelatinous, like sparkly, see-through-ish like being jumped on the hood of her car and shoved its head through her windshield. And I'm like, okay, like I've never heard anything like this. I belong to this group. I've read the alien books. I've never heard of such a thing. And I said, well, did you freak out? How did you not have an accident? And she's just like, it had a real calming effect to it. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. I said, well, how do you know it was an alien? She goes, Heidi, when you go to the dentist and your mouth gets numb? I said, yeah. She's like, well, it's weird. Like, I started asking it questions because I was so calm. And I said, who are you? And it said, using my own mouth, Heidi, moving it up and down like it was numb, and said, I'm the introduction for what's to come. And she's sitting there talking to me in my car, and I'm like, you're kidding, this is incredible stuff. And she goes, Heidi, I feel like I need to meditate. Like, she's not even done telling me her whole story. I'm like, meditate? I'm like, I had no idea this is what she did at all. And I'm like, where do I get out of my car? Let her sit there and meditate? It's like, I don't know what this is. So I'm sitting there. It's dark outside. She closes her eyes for a few moments, and she goes, hello, I've been waiting to speak to you for a very long time. And I'm like, huh? I said, Samantha? And now she's Puerto Rican. She has a very thick accent. And her accent was quite reduced, and said, oh, no, this is not Samantha. And I'm like, okay. I had no idea what was going on at this time. And this being started going into this conversation of, I'm an alien, I'm on a ship. I'm like, I'm about ready to break out of the car. Like,
yeah, you don't want to get the hell out. Yeah, I don't blame you.
Yes, and now I had seen
it's
something
almost
like
you
this
feel
before.
Protection, right? You feel being in the car, you're safe from being taken to the ship.
Well, I was about to run out of the car with whatever was possessing my friend. I was like, look, you're on your own. I'm out. I didn't know what it was. But I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I have been in hypnosis sessions with my friends at those meetings who were trying to regress and recall their alien interactions, only to have an alien start speaking instead of them looking at it from the outside, like they were speaking to the hypnotist. And so I'd seen this before, like almost channeling, right? And I'm like, okay, Heidi, you've seen this before. I think that an alien's really talking through my friend. And so I collect myself, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, so what's your name? And he shows her a symbol, and she pops through. Heidi, I see a symbol. I'm like, oh, okay. And she spells this name, CAFTH. And I'm like, calf. I'm like,
CAFTH. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, calf? And he pops back and he goes, ooh, I hate the way your human mouths say my name. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, it was just bizarre. I said, okay, so you're an alien. I said, where are you? I'm just like skipping forward a little bit. And it's like, I'm in a ship. I'm like, in a ship. Are you close by? And he goes, well, yes, but I cannot come down lower because your government knows how to shoot us out of the sky. And I'm like, And then he goes, but you know what? I think I'm close enough to project myself. And now I'm sitting in this car, and this car starts to get this hum.
So
And
you
I
could
see,
hear it. You're
yeah,
getting a hum. Okay.
like a hum. And between us, I see this. It wasn't perfectly formed, but like this fuzzy, small. Oh, I get chills. So I see this. It's like it's a pink, fleshy, like alien in the car
In the
between us.
car. Wow.
In the car,
Okay.
yeah, but it's like a hologram. And I'm like backing up to the side of the car, like, okay, I see something. I said, but it's not really clear. And he said, well, that cannot be helped. You have weak human eyes. And I was like, man, he's like bashing us humans with our mouths and our eyes. I'm like, what is going on here? And then it like fades away. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I believe you. I believe this is going on. I just saw it. And so soon after, my friend, she pops back and she's like, what was that? What was that? And I'm like, I saw an alien. She goes, I was talking to an alien. She said, I felt like I was in this ship. I'm looking, I see this guy, this little pink looking like being, and he's talking, and she's like, what is this going on? I said, well, remember the people at my meeting? One of them does this. And she's like, she right away hopped on the phone with my friend. She's like, I experienced this thing, so she's just trying to learn as much as she can. She did not like to read much English, and she grabbed like 3 of my alien books, and she's trying to learn as much as she can about this stuff. And she's like, I don't understand what is going on here. So it was quite a shock to the system for herself and myself. And now this is connected to the shadow people Hatman stuff. So this being, we're like kids in a candy shop. We're like, you think you could do it again? She's like, I don't know. You want to try? Okay. So she closes her eyes, and tries to relax, and out pops this voice again. And I'm like, okay, I've been reading the books, I've been talking to these people. I'm like, so where are you? And who are you? And I'm asking all the typical questions that I think anybody would, like, why are you here? Is there something I could do? It's just, give me the numbers to the lottery. I did the whole thing. And most of the time, this voice, this calf, would pop back and say, it would not benefit for you to know that. It's like, if I told you which star I was on, would you know where it is? Would it matter?
That
Can
reminds
you get
me
here?
of the Betty Hill question that they said, well, what does it matter where we're from if you can't tell us where you are on this map, on the star map?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I
the
do
point of
remember.
reference. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, and
And
I'm
like
like,
you
well, you
said,
got
we
me
can't
there.
get there. How are we
Right.
going to go 33 light years or wherever?
Yeah. They said, this does not benefit you to know. And I'm like, well, shoot. So I'm asking a gazillion questions, Dr. J. I could not get an answer. And I'm like, well, what is the point of this? And I'm like, well, it was absolutely frustrating. So I just started talking about random stuff and see if something would jar this voice coming through my friend. Now, it's not like we could keep doing this for long. She would get exhausted, and it took a lot out of her. So this is over like a long period. We're like talking and like, okay, let's try it again tonight. Talking, got nowhere, So finally, I mentioned something. I'm trying to remember the order of this. So there was a weird instance that happened between myself and my roommate Samantha. She had these brand new boots, and one day she asked me, "Heidi, did you wear my boots or something?" I'm like, "I'm 2 sizes bigger. How can I wear your boots?" And she walks out with her boots that she's never worn, and it had red mud going up past the ankles. She's like, "Look at this." I'm like, "Whoa, that's crazy." So we never could understand how the heck that happened.
Mud. That's a new one
Red
for
mud.
me.
Yes, it was red mud. And so I'm just like, but I mentioned something to this being, That I'll get back to the red mud on the boots, but I mentioned something to this being. I'm like, had a weird dream last night. I was just like, I had this dream of, it was for some reason I was in Florida. My dad was in this house, and I see this moon, and it looks like the moon is coming really close to the earth, and everybody seemed to notice it, and like it was weird because it's something, I think it was something like it was moving or oddly, and all of a sudden this big UFO came up next to the moon and started pulling the moon. And I mean, it was coming at such an angle, it looked like it was going to hit us. Wow. And when it got close, like all of a sudden these big winds, like houses were blowing down the street. And I'm just like it popped our protective bubble or something.
Well, and I would think that things would start to happen if the moon was to get closer. They talk about the tides changing, quakes, massive tidal waves, hurricanes, everything.
Yeah, true. Well, so I'm mentioning about this weird dream to this being, and he goes, "Yes, we saw what they were doing, so we moved the moon." I said, "Who's they?" It's like, "You call them shadow people. We call them the shadows." I said, "What? What?" I'm like, I got an answer from him. I'm like, well, tell me more, And it's just like, well, they were moving the moon towards the earth, and we saw what was happening, so we angled it and pulled it off to the side so it wouldn't kill you. And I'm like, you were in my dream? What is this? And then
they were in your head is what they were.
Yeah. Well, interesting enough, my friend with these red boots, and I said, well, my friend had this weird dream about, she was actually, she was in a cataclysmic, like, place of Milwaukee. Like, the buildings were flattened and all this stuff. And she looked up and she saw the sky was kind of a reddish orange. And he popped in and he goes,
sounds
well,
like a nuclear winter.
That reflects the water. And the water was reddish, orangish too.
Jeez.
And he said she was wearing those boots. I said, oh my God, she was on the beach and the beach was reddish in that dream. I'm like, she was wearing her boots in her dream? I was like, come on now. I was like, but he said, how else do you explain, those the red mud being on her boots? I was just blown away. It was just the strangest
red
thing,
mud came from the sand of the beach?
Well, it was muddy. It was just muddy red and just really, really crazy stuff. But yeah, so I was like, but this was the first time I really got answers from him, and he started dictating about shadow people. The beings that I was seeing all through my apartment, my friend was seeing all through the apartment, and how it was interfering with what was going on here on Earth, how abducting aliens were connected, what was going on with them, and how they were a threat, and how there was a secret war. I was floored. Now, of course, this information didn't all come at once. It was a long, many sessions, and I was told I can't record these sessions. I can't take notes. And I'm like, why? What is this?
Yeah. What are they trying to prevent you to remember?
Well, this is what they told me. They said this information is so risky. Once it's recorded down, if they see this beforehand, it will end with you. You have to keep it to yourself for now. And I'm like, oh, this is extraordinary. How do I keep this to myself? It's like, you have to keep it to yourself for now. And they said, your book will turn out nicely. And I'm like, I'm in college. I am in a very difficult medical program. I have no time to write a book. I'm like, who wants to write? Who likes writing? I didn't like writing. I was like, you're kidding me. I'm like, this is not happening. And so they encouraged with those words, your book will turn out nicely. We will protect that file on your computer, but nothing more. You cannot record. You can't do it. I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated with that whole process and not being able to do that. But he said, you don't realize the threat that's that's going to be after you. And I'm like, I had no idea where this would lead me. And it seems so strange and so far-fetched, and it's like, even for myself, as I was experiencing this stuff, I'm like, you know what you know what you've experienced. That's the best that you can do. And to be met with this kind of access as a college kid with wide eyes, and my friend Pentecostal sitting there in awe of these conversations, and I'm like, well, we're seeing these things. We see these shadow beings. We know that they're real. I did know what was going on. I had friends that stayed over just to watch these shadowy things pop up, only for a sphere of light to come in from outside and hit these shadow things and send them on their way. It was like I was watching a secret battle in my apartment all the time. And it just didn't make any sense to me about what was going on. I'm like, I just couldn't draw any conclusions. So a lot of people are just like, well, how do you know so much about shadow people? And how is it proven to be right over all these years? I'm like, as weird as it sounds, these alien beings are connected to them. And there's an opposing force to the ones who take people against their will, who experiment on them, who rape them, who create children, who create hybrids, and the whole background of infiltration that they've been perpetrating on people. So this being cast was not part of these Greys, was not part of the reptilians, the Nordics, none of that. And he said most of the beings that you hear of that are going around doing these things to people, they have been conquered. Those are conquered beings. I'm like, conquered by who? What is this? And it said the shadow beings. This is not the first planet they've done this to. And I'm like,
it's funny when you say that. I'm thinking terraforming. Other planets, terraforming, trying to make it home-like for them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That is exactly what they're doing. Imagine their bodies are not made for this atmosphere. So they need to make something that's half them and half controlled by them.
In order to live here, you would have to be born here. I thought that was a very interesting statement because therefore you're adjusted to the climate, what each day brings, our oxygen, or it's not really quite oxygen, it's our air. Oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, whatever is all the composition. The point is it's needed to if you want to sustain life here for a long enough period of time. And that made sense.
Yes. They told me that they're creating these hybrids that's half human, so it can live upon the earth, but be controlled by them. So that was their whole goal with this huge hybridization program. And, it makes sense. And it's like, it's just so much. It was so much to take in. And I'm like, okay, so these shadow beings, what are they doing? They're like, well, they're pulling their strings. They have done this to other species. They have gone to different planets and they get them to turn on their own kind. And they said some of your humans have been taken over. It's like, who do you know wants to shoot themselves in their own foot? Who wants to destroy their own planet? Why would anybody want to do that? He said, you can always bet that the shadow people have a hand in anything that's destructive or going against your planet. And now they told me this planet is not their priority to be saved any longer because it is so far gone. It needs to recycle, and that's just what the planet does. So they essentially said anybody who's really gung-ho trying to save the planet, he's like, not as important. We're only here to save the souls because it's coming to that point that the threat of these dark beings taking over, infiltrating, this is their ultimate goal. The land is not what's important any longer because it will fix itself. So there you have it.
I've always argued that versus the people that say we have to change our ways because we have these, we've caused so many problems with us being here. I always think, well, what were we doing 20,000 years ago during the last mini ice age or 10 million years ago? The earth goes through natural changes as it is. It's going to get warm,
Yeah.
it's going to get cold again. It's just the way
Yep.
it's going to be. There
Mhm.
several cities that are occupied now will be underwater. We know that. It's just
Yep.
time. If it can happen, it will happen. Murphy's Law.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious. Are we still having technical difficulties? Did they
No,
hear?
no, we're here.
Did they hear a voice over the airway? I wonder.
No, it
Some.
sounded like more like interference the moment you were answering. It's like
Yeah.
almost a being was, or something was making it hard for the information you were conveying
Mm,
to come across. But
yeah. That's
overall,
been a
we're
big
good.
problem.
Yeah.
I just had a major EVP go over my
You know,
show.
it's funny you said that. I don't know if you know Keith Linder, Demons in Seattle of the Bothell Hell
Yes.
House. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, it wasn't until after the show that many people, including him, pointed out that there was an EVP. And he told me where to look for it. And I swear to God, it was a third person on this line. And it sounded like a male and
Mhm.
it was very low in volume, and I couldn't make out the words other than to say they were speaking in English and they were not happy.
Wow, that is crazy. That is crazy. You know what mine was? It was Waltz of the Flowers, Tchaikovsky, playing very loudly at the beginning of my show through my introduction and a little bit into my talking there. And it was on my show that I just had with I had Tracy Austin on chatting, but
Yes.
she came on. She came on 30 minutes into the show, and I have had, oh my God, a voice coming over my phone before to people. They think I'm watching TV, and I'm like, no. Then they start
Or
listening to the
they
voice,
think
and
you
they
might have connected some other line at the same time and like that, right?
no, like they start talking to the person that's listening that I'm talking with. They start communicating. It's weird.
Wow.
It's weird. They literally start discussing and giving warnings to me. One did. I'm like, oh great, here we go. I'm just like, it just never ceases to amaze me. But Tchaikovsky playing, it was so loud, so loud. So yeah, do you want to hear it? I have it on my Facebook page. It's the first sounds that you hear, the music coming through, and it's no place to be found on my end, anybody's. It's just crazy. So
I
wild stuff.
know I have not paid attention to the questions for a good hour plus, but there's one in caps and I want to read it to you. This is
Mhm.
from the Lion. It says, I would like to know if she noticed light orbs during her encounters with benevolent beings.
I
Were they
have.
benevolent, first of all? Is the question.
If they're talking about alien beings,
Yes.
I have not seen them right alongside of them, but I've seen many like spirit orb like things.
Hmm.
But it seemed I felt like these spheres that I would see attacking these shadow beings, they came from outside. I felt they were alien directed. Honestly, that they came in through the window, they hit the shadow thing, and they'd go right back out the window. And I'm just standing there going, "What was that? What was that?" I mean, just the craziest stuff. I don't even know how to categorize this stuff, and it's so weird because I was just a college kid, and to have this being talking through my friend saying, this is going to be introduced to the world. I'm like, come on now. I'm like, come on. I have exams. I need to go. It's like, no, you will do fine with this. Don't worry. It's like, what, and here it's gone to the extent that it has is mind blowing. And to have, put this out there and to have now other researchers jumping on it, and they're like, oh my God, this is related to the alien phenomena. I'm like, no, duh. Yeah, I've been saying that the whole while. People are reporting seeing these shadow beings right alongside of gray alien beings. Hatman directs all of the shadow beings.
So yeah,
Nuisance
that
is
was
one
my
again.
next personal question, because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a perfect, since we started with the inverse of who is Hatman, is how
Uh-huh.
do we connect shadow people to Hatman?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's usually the only one standing in the room that looks somewhat human that is directing the others. There could be
So
100
the
shadow
boss
beings.
of.
The boss of, the boss of, and my God, if you see him, I don't think you'll ever fear such such a fear. You'll ever feel such a fear because he is overwhelmingly evil. One glance, I had a guy write me. He said, Hatman ruined my life. I'm like, and now I've had people who say Hatman has followed me for my entire life. I see him every night or every other day. I've had people write me like that. I had one guy who had seen him when I think he was like 4 years old. He said he ruined my life. I said, oh my God, you must have seen him a lot. No,
Yeah,
just the one
obviously
time.
to ruin
The one,
one
the one
time,
time.
one
The one
encounter
time.
ruined his
It was
life.
that It was that horrifying. It
Wow.
was that horrifying. It had scared him senseless. PTSD, always looking over his shoulder, absolutely paranoid because he said, I knew one thing, and I knew I was looking at the most evil entity ever created. And he looked me right in my eyes and smiled at me, bent all the way down. I mean, Hatman's huge. Slender Man was ripped off from Hatman. I don't know if you knew that. But
It's ironic you say that because the image I have looks identical to Slender Man wearing a hat.
yeah, yeah, it's him. It's him. I learned that the quote creator of Slender Man took from the Hatman sightings and made it a quote fictional character. Now there's such a direct connection with the happenings of the stabbing of the 12-year-old.
Yes,
That yes,
over Slender Man. Yeah.
over Slender Man.
She
Now one of the
just
little girls,
spoke. The victim actually broke her silence and is now
yes,
gone public.
yes, I heard about that. So one of the little girls that attacked her told the other little girl about Slender Man. And you know how she convinced her? Because that other little girl said, oh my God, I saw him when I was little. Who do you think she actually saw? She saw Hatman. How do you see Slender Man at any point? It was Hatman. So she was easily convinced because she'd already experienced him. Now, the weird part, just before I put out my Hatman book, do you know I'd never personally seen him prior to putting out the book? He went
Ah.
after my roommate. He went after Samantha. And I didn't know what was going on. I heard her
So
screaming
she
like somebody was
wasn't
killing her.
telling you at the time, or what? Or you just
No,
didn't
no,
know it was happening there?
it happened one horrifying time to her. I was in my room. She's in hers. It was the middle of the night. I heard her do a death scream like I'd never heard of before in my life. I went running to her room thinking somebody must be in there attacking her. And I'd never seen anybody making themselves as small as they possibly can in one corner of the room, just like terrified beyond words. Couldn't speak. And she's like, the man, the man, the man. I'm looking around. She had a door in her room that led to the porch. And I'm thinking somebody broke in. I'm like looking. I'm like, no, the door's locked. The windows are fine. I'm like, where? She couldn't even talk. It took her a while. And she goes, he disappeared when you came in the room. And I'm like,
Oh.
what? I'm
Maybe
like,
the
okay.
Hatman was fearing you, or maybe something you were taught to keep him
Well,
at bay.
I had no understanding, and I just thought it was another form that shadow beings took, because there's several types. There's a shadow cat, shadow spider, shadow rodents, head and shoulder shadow. I mean, they just take different forms. So, and because I'd not seen them, I didn't know.
Hmm.
And so, just before I put this book out, he came into my room and sat on my bed. And I refused to look at him. I was awake. I refused to look. I knew who it was. Then my patients. Okay, so I'm a therapist. I was living in Chicago, and I would go in and fill in all over Chicago as a therapist. And these physical therapists knew about, oh my gosh, here comes that paranormal therapist. And they're like, so they asked me, oh, what do you write your books about? Told them about it. 15 minutes later, one of them had to leave. The other one came back down to the therapy gym with a patient. And I mean, just a few minutes later, I'm sitting there doing my notes. This therapist is screaming, "Come here now." I go out there. The patient is standing in the parallel bars, try to stand up, and it's surrounded by mirrors, the parallel bars, so the patient could see themselves walking. And the patient is leaning towards the mirror going, "Who is that man? Who is that man talking to me in another language?" And I was like, "What man are you talking about?" "The man in the suit. Don't act like I'm crazy." And I said, "Oh my God." The therapist was looking at me. I leaned forward and I said, "Sir, is he wearing a hat?" "I knew you could see him. Of course he's wearing a hat. He's standing right behind you." This happened twice. That day and then the following day. Now, 2 weeks after I published my book on the Hatman, those little girls attacked that other little girl about a 15-minute drive from my parents' home.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I took it. He was being so specific. He was listening. I just mentioned him 15 minutes earlier, and he pops up. The next day, another therapist said, we were telling what had happened that day, the night before, and she goes, "Dang, I wish I was here to see that." Few minutes later, it happened again. He was in the mirror again. And I mean, that's how close he was listening and paying attention. And it's gotten even, so for this Slenderman attack to happen practically in my neighborhood was not a coincidence. Now, it gets even stranger because more recently, guess how people have been finding me?
How?
Hatman has been telling them, "My name is Hatman."
Oh, jeez. So
Yeah.
Talk about a little narcissist, to say the least, right? It's like if you can't see I'm wearing a hat, well, let me just say I'm a hat man. There's two things I want to say in chat.
Yeah.
One, let me get back to where I could find it here. This one gets straight, so let's make this. Okay. One person here, Russell Grant, says to count him in on this side of the phenomenon being an actual thing. It personally happened to him, talking about Hatman. And then we have a questioning from Lasha Senyak, which says, what does she think that Hatman wants? Good question. Intentions.
Well,
yes.
His intentions are of the darkest nature that you can imagine. He literally encourages these people, usually to kill themselves, sometimes to kill other people. But yeah, his favorite thing is to not just to pin a person down. Oh no, he likes to punch his hand into their chest and pull their soul out, kicking and screaming, laughing about it, saying, "This is his now. You're his now." So he lets it be known that he is after their soul. And I spoke to a near-death experience researcher on my show. I can't recall her name, but everything's love and light, near-death experience. I said, okay, so let's go to the negative ones. What about those negative near-death experiences? She goes, the strangest thing happens to those people. I said, what is it? They see this man in a hat show up. I said, oh, yeah, that's him. That's where I was going. That's what I figured. So he's reaping souls. He literally is reaping souls, and he's encouraging this to go on. I mean, it's so dark. And he used to say his name was Scratch, like he was the devil. He was insisting upon that. And now he's saying, my name's Hatman. But he's adapting to the name that I gave him? What? Oh, my God. It's horrifying stuff.
There's another one here for you. We said this in the beginning, and let me find it again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, two things. Russell Grant wants to say that Hatman stood on his chest, and I would never harm me or anyone else. I think he's meaning that he wouldn't be violent. Okay, I'm not
Yeah,
sure where I
that
get
he
that.
wouldn't do it. Yeah, that he wouldn't listen to such a
He's
thing.
also saying you can confirm the laughing,
Yeah,
and I think this someone might have gotten in late because you answered this almost 90 minutes ago, but it's what is Hatman, which you
yeah,
described.
yeah,
The guy in
yeah,
the three-piece suit.
yeah. That I mean, he'll claim to be the devil himself or Satan himself, and evil incarnate. It takes one time to encounter him to realize you have looked into the face and the presence of the most ultimate evil, and it's horrifying. It is absolutely horrifying. Another element that he's been doing more lately, he's recruiting people. So he's trying to get people to do things for him. And, for those who say, even though if he says, kill yourself, kill somebody, they wouldn't do that. I've also had people tell me how they wouldn't do such a thing. But they woke up in the hospital and somebody said that they tried to kill themselves. Though just beforehand they saw Hatman. Next thing they know, they wake up in the hospital saying that they attempted suicide. They're like, I would never do that. What did he do to me? And they're adamant about it. I've had several people write me saying that they did attempt suicide, and they wake up strapped down in their hospital bed, and Hatman is sitting there waiting for them, leans over to their face, and now I've had like at least 3 that him say this exact same thing. I was this close to having you, and then disappear.
Wow.
Yeah, he's horrifying. And I can't stress it enough. He rapes. People don't like to talk about that, but he does that pretty often. It's very sexual. Rapes men, women, doesn't matter. He bites people. He scratches. He laughs. He does horrible things. And to take it any other way, then it is sick. It is just sick. It makes me very angry. I get a lot of kids who will write me as well. I have 2 books on the Hatman. So one is the Hatman, True Story of Evil Encounters, and then one is the Hatman. I'm a cartoonist, so I wrote this book, How to Get Rid of Dark Entities for All Ages. So it's comics showing you how to get rid of and bless your home to get rid of these things, because so many children, they get their little fingers on your computer or your tablet and they're finding me. I don't know how they're doing it. And they're like, my parents think I'm crazy. Hatman's saying he's going to kill me. I need help. Can you help me? And I'm like, I can't respond. These little stinkers always have to say, I'm 10 years old. They have to tell me their age all the time. I'm like, oh, now I can't respond because you told me how young you are. But at least I could say now there's a kid's book. There's a kid's book for your kids and for yourself. It's for all ages. And again, I have all my stuff free on Amazon Prime. So it's to save souls. It's not for anything else. It's so necessary. I can't stress that enough. And it's not just a possibility these things are going to come at you. It's a threat. This is the secret war. This is the war that, written of in the Bible, it seems to me that it's going to be in the sky for us all to see. Well, it's happening now in the privacy of people's homes, and they're winning. They're killing people. I mean, this is sick. It just can't keep going on, and I'm just in it for the long haul.
Back to saving people and helping them.
Yes. And, my other books, here I got 8 books out. I have 3 books on these dark topics: The Secret War, The Hatman, Book 1, and Book 2. The rest are on, I have a book on Jesus called Jesus is No Joke.
I'm glad you brought that up. Someone was actually writing that over an hour ago, and whether you were ever saying the name of Jesus to prevent any of these beings, shadow people or Hatmen, from coming near you.
Oh yeah, this is why I had to create this balance. Soon after all that madness is going on with shadow beings, Hatman, and Calf, the alien, showing up, I had an encounter with Jesus. Now, I was not the type to get into that at all. I literally wrote in my book, The Secret War, that if Jesus were around, I think I would have seen him by now. Because I had seen so much by that stage. I had seen angelic-like beings. It was just so much going on, and I'm just trying to get through college.
Demonic,
really,
obviously, you talked about
demonic.
that.
Oh my God, so much. And then, I was like, I really felt like, Jesus did his thing. He's a historical figure. One day he'll return. I would never have anticipated to have had such an encounter. And it's not like it was, he told me a whole bunch of words to tell the world. No, but it changed everything for me. And he told me, you need to finish writing your book. And that was The Secret War, is what I was editing at the time. And I had a handful of other encounters with him, and that's that book, Jesus is No Joke, which is actually my most highly rated book I have out there.
Jesus,
it's at
really?
number 1 for 8 months.
Number
1 for 8 months on Amazon.
Interesting.
Out of all of them. And now my books, I have another book. If you go to theotherfword.com, I have 2 books on faith. I'm a cartoonist, so I made it kind of like Diary of a Wimpy Kid with the notebook lines. I have one for kids and I have one for adults. And I had to create this balance because I'm like, people kept saying, hey, I just saw the devil. It's the Hatman, but I don't get into that religious thing, so what do I do? I'm like, I would throw a shoe at it. Rock, I don't know.
Choke it.
Like, we got to keep it real here. It's like you just saw the equivalent of the devil, and you know this, but you don't have any faith. You think that would convince you there's something out there that's positive that could oppose this, or at least hope. So I found it very important, to be honest. People feel like saying you're Christian is a bad word. I'm Christian. I'm not New Age. I'm a Christian. I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not a churchgoer, but I'm more aligned with Jesus. And it only took for him to come and smack me upside the head to say, hello, I'm real. So there's no way I could be doing what I'm doing had I not had those encounters with him. There's just no way. I'm dealing with the darkest of dark things, and he chases off all these people I know. There's so many projects that have gone down because he showed up in their home. So many friends and coworkers scared to talk because he showed up in their home. It's like I tell people how to protect themselves. They don't listen always. I'm like, please get ahead of this before he shows up in your home. So it's like, this has to be done. I can't stop because he's being the butthead that he is. This is what he does. But people, we got to wake up and just be adamant, protect ourselves, take the step forward. And, so I did the other F word, how to find faith and laugh at yourself while trying, with comics and the silly attempt that we do to feel okay with God, because we're so hard on ourselves, but it's so clear. It says in the Bible, and I'm not a big Bible mentioning, quoting person, but it said you just need the faith of a mustard seed, which is pretty itty bitty, and you can move a mountain. So get comfortable with it because it's going to be your only ammunition against this evil. So theotherfword.com, and I hope that people check it out. And I have a different method of praying called Picture Prayers. That's another book from an angelic encounter. So it's like, and I keep my stuff light. I put a lot of humor in it because, again, I don't want people to be freaked out or feel like they're sitting in a church pew, I want people to be able to relate and be on the level,
There's 2 things I want to read to you. One is satire. It's from, let me find it again, from Lasha. The next title for your book, The Cookie Thing Doesn't Work. I thought that was pretty great.
I love it, Lasha. That's funny.
This is a personal message. I'm going to read it word for word from Pyramid 7. Okay. Dr. J, please ask her if she thinks that he/it is connected with Hollywood and tell her hi, please.
Oh, that's really sweet, Pyramid. If it's connected with Hollywood, I have learned, I've heard from others that Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street was the representation of Hatman.
Very interesting. Coming in your dreams and killing you with the end. Yes. That hat was very critical to Freddy.
Yes. And I got a funny story about that too. Poltergeist, the movie, the pastor, the minister, he was in there. He looked just like him. And then, of course, there's Slender Man. So, yeah, do I think he has been? And Babadook, hello, that movie was so Hatman. I'm like, really? Come on now. What's going on? So, yeah, there's a lot of people. But I think there's a dark influence, too, among a lot of people. So, yeah, I think he's the devil sitting on people's shoulders, whispering in their ear. But I got a funny shoulder. No, I got a funny story about the Freddy Krueger and his hat.
Yeah,
so
no, please tell it. I'm a huge fan and have been a fan since 1985.
Oh, wow. So I had a guy that wrote me, and he said every night he would see this guy coming out of his closet. Hatman sits in closets, figure. I don't know. But he's like, he would see this guy who was in a suit kind of stepping halfway out of the closet and reaching for this hat, Freddy Krueger replica hat, hanging on this hook in his bedroom. And he would usually scream, and Hatman would pop back into the closet and disappear. He's like, every night, and he's like, he'd see him, and he'd pop out, and he'd scream. He's like, and then this one night, Hatman got the Freddy Krueger hat, put it on his head, smiled, and went back into the closet. He never came out again. I'm like, oh, my God. They never saw that hat. Crazy. So Hatman wears Freddy Krueger's hat, literally.
Let's see here. No, this is just a contact to me. It's from Johnny Webb, who used to was my co-host, and he's in the UK in London, actually, and he just wants to say that we went to Elm Street together. So that was true. I did take him to an Elm Street, obviously not where they filmed. I don't know if I'm thinking that's a studio lot. I don't know where they filmed Nightmare on Elm Street, to be honest with. Let me see if there's anything else for you. That is a direct. I tell people to write questions in caps so it's easier to pick apart from the comments and opinions between each other, because there's a lot to go through.
Right.
In the meantime, I say you got 15 minutes of taking it to wherever you want to take it.
Well, I think that people
scare me more. Oh, wait, you know what? As I'm saying this, I got something here for you. First of all, Johnny Webb wants to say great show and great guest. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny.
And thank you, Heidi. And Lasha says, has the Hatman ever left any physical evidence?
Has he left? Well, he bites and he scratches people, and he rapes people, and people say that they have that kind of evidence left behind on their body, but
worst kind, literally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The scratches and whatnot. So yeah.
And
I've had people say they've been thrown across the room.
We don't know who died from Hatman either, because we don't know who's there. How are they to convey it to us? Right,
exactly. So I know that he's capable of it. People say they've been pushed downstairs by him, and he's there laughing. Car accidents. People who thought Hatman was standing in the road, or somehow their car just suddenly turned, hit a tree, and they see him, and they're laying in their wrecked car. And they're like, what just happened here? So, yeah, he's responsible for a lot of stuff. I don't think that there's a good method of tracking all this just yet. I mean, I'm one person. One person been taking all this going, oh, no. And I just get angrier and angrier, and I'm just like on such a mission to try to educate people, because people are so, this world has got to end. It's so bad. I'm like, no, we will lose too many people because they're not prepared. They're not ready. People are ashamed to show they have faith in something. This is just ridiculous. It's like, be who you are. It's like, sure, be mad at your priest for being whatever, an assaulter of children. But do you lose your faith because he behaved badly? we've got to change this and get back to our community, get back to our roots. And I'm not a big church person, but I realize the necessity of it,
The
because
value
how
of
do
it.
how do you get to know your neighbors? How do you get to know your neighbors? You go
Your
out,
inner
you
self
talk about
too.
something positive. Yeah, you
Hmm.
support each other. Sure, you're studying this book and it's history, it's moving. We have got to reestablish our faith, and it's like it's okay to be Christian. You don't have to say that, oh, well, I've turned Buddhist now. I find a lot of Reformed Catholics out there, usually, who have walked away from their faith because of some bad trip of, or I don't know, discipline they got from the church. It's like, that's just the church. You can be just fine with you and God sitting right where you're at, and just keep the faith, because we've got to. It's too much. And you know what? Hatman loves going after atheists, people who will claim to be atheists or agnostic. I
Hmm.
generally get the worst cases from them. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so.
I've
Um,
always argued that the morals that are laid out in the Bible, if people lived like that, we would
mhm,
never have war, you'd never
mhm.
harm a soul, and we'd
Right.
really be enlightened, and we'd be
Yes.
living to the standards that Christ set for us. Now, let me
Yeah.
read a few things for you. Johnny
Mhm.
writes, when we were talking about, when you were mentioning this about your faith, he writes in capital letters, faith and hope, amen.
Yeah.
Tammy George, oh, another thing Johnny says before I ask Tammy Joe's,
Mhm.
says, stay with the Holy Spirit left behind for us to get. Um,
Yes.
what I don't know what he mentioned there. Tammy George wants to know what was the name of your book about Jesus?
It's called Jesus is No Joke. A true story of an unlikely witness who saw Jesus, which is myself. So Jesus is no joke. My highest ranking book. I mean, number one for 8 months on Amazon in the near death experience category. I was floored. I was
Hmm.
like, wow, going from shadow people to Jesus, but I couldn't sit quiet about it. I'm like, it blew my mind, and it changed everything for me. And why be ashamed? Be who you are and be honest. That's all I know to be, is be painfully honest about whatever it is, because that's the only way that
Yeah, you can't
we could share
beat
it.
around
Yeah.
the bush, literally.
No. Yeah. Like, my
City
goodness.
Lights wants to know, could Hatman be a tulpa? Tulpa?
Oh gosh. I've heard him get categorized as a lot of different things, and it's like I've had Native Americans tell me that he's something that has been how can I say, that they've been talking about in their legacies and stories passed on. And you know I know that when it comes to like Slenderman itself, that I think that that's more of a tulpa, where people are kind of pushing this thought, like, because they've heard of Slender Man, and now they're actually reporting that they see Slender Man, that it's not Hatman, it's Slender Man. Like, he's got the shadow spider thing sticking out of his back and everything. So, I don't know. I mean, shadow. I still get so many people on a weekly basis that'll say, "I thought I was the only one." They kept it to themselves, and then they just so happen to Google "strange man in a hat and a suit," and my name comes up. So it's like, I think that it's just like people saying, "Oh, everything is sleep paralysis." It's like, how are we seeing all the same things when it comes to sleep paralysis? I don't think so. I think that this is an actual real phenomena that is going on, that people are experiencing, and they're always, always so very shocked that that others have experienced it. So
I'm seeing here what else. Someone saying, do people really believe in Slender Man? And the obvious answer is yes, because I've
yeah,
heard it from multiple people. Long
yeah.
before, by the way, the incidents for the 12-year-olds.
Yes, yeah, because it's so popular. I mean, it was really popular. That's how it hit those 12-year-olds so strongly because there is such a following on that. I forget the name of that site, but yeah, a lot of people are really behind it. And my friend Nick Redfern, he wrote a book about
Yeah,
people
great
claiming to see
guy.
Slender
You
Man.
know Nick too. Oh
Oh
God,
yeah,
I've read all of his
yeah,
books and I've
yeah,
interviewed him, I think probably
yeah.
6 times over the
Oh,
years.
he's very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did a TV show with him, TV series that we're launching
Very
off, and
down to earth. That's what I like about him. And he's not
yes,
afraid to expand. He
no,
really
no,
dives into topics. He's not so nuts and bolts as someone
mm,
like Stanton Friedman was, where he,
right,
wrote one of two topics usually.
yeah, yeah,
Science is wrong, flying
mhm,
saucers are real. No, Nick Redfern
right,
took it all in, and that was great about
yes,
it.
oh yeah, he's cool.
Let me see what else here I got for you.
Yeah,
Um, has she ever been a guest on Channel Eric? I don't know
oh,
what
I don't
that
know what that
is.
is.
Neither do I. Okay, well, we got that one. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Move on to the next one. And let's see who else here. Um, let's see. Stefan Agon. Yeah, but where is the proof? At least some video of Slenderman? That's another thing I'm seeing.
Oh, I've got pictures that people have sent me over the years of Hatman. But it's like the proof is the person that's bawling their eyes out saying, "Oh my God, I thought this was just a bad dream that I was having." I mean, sometimes you got to take a step back and take people for their word. One person's word in court could put you in prison, but thousands around the world is this a joke? This is not a joke. I wish it were. I really wish it were. But you know, you'd have to see these people. I've done this so many times where it's like, because I've moved around as a therapist, and I'll just like ask my friends or the coworkers, they'll be like, "Oh, you write about paranormal?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they'll tell me that they saw a ghost, and 9 times out of 10, when they it's Hatman, it's him, it wasn't anything else. I'm like, and it's so funny because I've had friends along with me when this happens, and they're like, "Oh my God, did that just happen? Did they really just say they saw Hatman?" Like they see it, and the look of shock on their face. I'm like, "Did it look like this?" I pull up my book image on my website,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just nothing that can replace that look of shock and awe. Like, this
The
was real.
fear.
This is real. Yes. Or when there's more than one in a room and they realize both of them saw the same thing. It is mind blowing, and it's earth shattering for these people.
Let's see here. This is from Lost. Another good question. Are the
Mm-hmm.
black-eyed children related to the Hatman thing at all?
One thing that Cass, the alien being, had told me was about these alien hybrid children who are going to be returning. And yeah, so you think of shadow people, Hatman controlling shadow people, and them being connected to these gray alien beings, and they're creating this hybridization program to essentially take over. Yeah, they're getting these children acclimated to interacting with people and doing the darndest things to people. So
The
yeah, this is
black-eyed children, when I hear that, I
the
literally
next step.
think of the Paranormal Activity series when they show the children, all the children with the black eyes.
Oh
Literally, they have no iris, no whites in their eyes, just solid black. And it's
yeah, yeah,
very freaky.
yeah. And Hatman has those kind of eyes, solid black, when he shows his eyes, or they're bright blood red, like glowing red. So yeah, it's really disturbing. My book, The Hat Man, has some stories connecting the aliens. Like there's some alien stories connected with Hatman and shadow people in there. I have about 50 stories in that book, the Hatman book.
Here's a request for you. Can we get, you said CAFTA, right? CAFTA, right? Is the being?
Calf,
Yeah.
calf.
Can you
Mm-hmm.
get Calf on the show for an interview? That's that's something request.
Do you know what I used to do when we were in college? My friend, because I had a UFO website, and I still have it, UFO, and put the number 2 and the letter U.com. So UFO to you. And I was putting up this story about how we were having this contact with this being. I'm like, anybody got any questions? I had quite a lot of people go into the site, and people would send me questions. Ask half this, ask them that. And this was before I could put out that shadow people what I was writing about. I had to have it in print before I could talk about it in public, because they told me this information will die with you if you do not. So I was just taking questions about alien stuff, and so he would answer tons. I have dozens of questions people asked, and I would pose it to him. But that friend of mine, now, she never put her real name is not Samantha. She never put her name to this stuff. She was, like I said, she was a rather accomplished artist, and she didn't want to have her name associated, and she walked away from all this. And sadly, so she's like, okay, I feel like I've done enough. I mean, she did her thing, she felt like, because it really shook things up for her. I mean, from strict Pentecostal, never cutting her hair, to wearing the big dresses, to having an alien talk through you. So it really changed her perspective. And she's like, okay, I think you got everything. I can't keep doing this. It drained her. So yeah, he is not talking anymore, because I've never channeled him. So
It'd be really great if we could. I always say this about ETs. If we could only get one for an interview, then we would really have the answers. You know who Richard Doty is?
Richard who? Dolan?
Doty, not Dolan.
Doty.
Richard
Oh,
Doty.
no.
Richard Doty was in the United States Air Force Office of Special Investigations. I think it's what OSI, AFOSI. And he said after an extraterrestrial encounter on Kirkland Air Force Base, him and 5 others were taken to Area 51S4, and he was briefed on the topic in the 70s. And he was shown a 20-minute film of craft, of beings walking, one being tested, things like that. And then he said there was about another 45 minutes of talk from a colonel, forward colonel. And then was about another hour for Q&A. And he said about an hour, not about an hour, about a minute of the 20-minute briefing video he was shown was on air. And I said to him during the interview, are you talking about the Skinny Bob videos? And he says, I don't know, I'd have to see it. So we finished, I showed him, and he said, yes, this is a portion of what I saw clearly, and not all of it. On one of them, you see Skinny Bob, what looks to be playing with something. He said, well, what you're not seeing is that they cropped Skinny Bob to just be in that one screen without a human scientist across from him on a table. And he was doing some sort of test with children's toys to try to figure out how much they knew. And he said the only reason he started speaking, because for the longest time he was the one that briefed Linda Moulton Howe. For the longest time he was someone who was sent to suppress the information or sent out disinformation. And he said because he had been to so many conferences, because he'd read so many books, he said everyone was half right and half wrong, and he wanted to set the record straight. And that's why he started speaking. And so once I got confirmation from the other side, that I was like, okay, now I know this is real. This one, at least this one clip. And that really opened much more for me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Definitely. Well, you definitely want to talk to Richard Doty at some point.
Yeah, sounds cool. I mean, I tell people, if I was so wrong, why on earth, during that time period, did I have several military abductions?
Oh,
I had several.
Yes.
Several, and they lasted. One lasted. I cannot understand this one. I was gone for a very long time, what felt like weeks, if not months.
My
And
labs,
I,
literally, wow.
yeah, yeah, it's
I,
crazy.
this is, you know what? I've already seen this from a few people that I absolutely have to have you back. And, my labs is absolutely something I would love to talk about because there are not very many people who have experience in my labs.
Oh
There
yeah.
are people who have heard of them, but not
Mhm.
people who have been taken by maybe by ETs, but taken
Mhm.
into human bases along with military people. So that
Oh
we
yeah,
have to save. Well, let me say this,
definitely.
and because it is Halloween, and of course, I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween. I know throughout this whole time, people have had a great time, as have I. I know children have been getting candy from outside. I left a giant bowl for them. So let me give you a chance to plug in all your stuff again, where people can find you, and if you have one final message, what would you say?
You know what? I tell you to people that all is not lost. If these things could take us out, they already would have done it, and they come like a thief in the night. But there is something to be said about the human potential and our faith, because we can win. We really can, and we are. Otherwise, this would have been done already. So I want people to feel free to write me about their experiences, their questions, or even to come on my show to talk to me. The first 30 minutes of my show, the Outlander show, I answer people's questions. I take their calls. And so you can find me at HeidiHollis.com. My show is on uprntalkradio.com on
Where I used to
Mondays.
be, yeah.
Yes, yeah, Mondays at 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. And write your emails as big as you want. And I want people to get comfortable with this stuff because it's here. It's already here, and we just gotta take it seriously and have be ourselves. Though, don't lose yourself in this. Don't get depressed. Don't get angry, and just
Yes.
stand strong.
Amen. And you know what? There isn't a better message to leave off by. And with that being said, everybody, let me say again, happy Halloween. Thank you all
Yes.
for being here tonight. I didn't know how many of you would be in the chat, considering it is a holiday, at least in the U.S. I don't know where else. I know I was hearing about the history of Halloween going back 2,000 years. But the point
Wow.
is I know there are people in the chat that are in countries that are not celebrating today. So for those that are, again, I hope you are having a great time, and as are your children. With that being said, people,
Happy Halloween, everybody.
yeah, and she said it well. Now we are officially signing off.